What exactly is the ask here? Do they want management change? I think the probable answer is yes. Will they get it? We'll see.
But David,
it's going to take some time.
Okay, management change at the top or management change?
Well, NBC Dylan Byers today is reporting that Singer wants both Stanky and Stevenson out.
Yeah, I think Stanky is seen as the successor. That was kind of made clear last week, and that's not something that they necessarily want. But it's not; they're not going there at this point, and we'll have to see how things play out. They've had one conversation with Stevenson. They've had one conversation with the lead director. There's going to be a lot more to follow here, but it's not going to happen in days or weeks.
Long-running saga. I've been telling people, own the stock.
Own it. You want to own it.
Be with Elliott. He was Singer.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse.
Yeah, it's Jesse Cohn. It's not really
People need to know that Singer runs a big company. He never takes credit.
No, it's Jesse Cohn who runs all this stuff.
Jesse Cohn is very smart.
Yes, very nice, too.
Very nice.
Yes.
I don't mean that facetious.
No.
We're back to 29.59. Let's get to Bob Pisani. Hey, Bob.
Rotation, baby. That's what's going on here. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and I think we're starting to see some early signs of it. Too soon to make a trend here, but remember what's been weak throughout most of the year? Cyclical names. We've seen banks weaker, energy generally weaker, industrials generally weaker. Holding up a little better today. Banks, energy, industrial started positive, a little weaker. What's been strong throughout the year? Consumer staples and semiconductors to a certain extent. Different kinds of groups here, but they're also a little weaker today. This is what I talk about the rotation. So a lot of questions yesterday that some momentum stocks had been weaker, and indeed, that was the case. If you take a look here, some of the fintech names strong all year, PayPal, MasterCard. This is what happened yesterday. Both down. Some of the consumer names. So remember, momentum names are price related. So fintech's been strong, and consumer and defensive names have been strong. Merck was down yesterday. Kimberly-Clark all had a very good year overall. Momentum names weak. What's happening today? How about these four names? Exact same thing. This is why I'm telling you, a little bit of a trend. Too early to say a major trend, but we're seeing this again for the second day in a row. Meantime, deeper cyclical names yesterday, for example, generally outperformed the market. I'm talking about the railroads, Norfolk Southern, John Deere, Fastenal. They were all up yesterday. What are some of these deeper cyclical names looking like today? This is today's performance. If you put that up, generally they're outperforming a little bit. Fastenal is down 1%, but the deeper cyclicals are doing a little bit better. Okay, so some evidence that some deep cyclical rotation may be going on right now. So the important thing is all year, low volatility stuff has ruled the markets. I'm talking about consumer staples have generally been strong. REITs have generally been strong. Utilities, these are from their 52-week highs. These are essentially right near historic highs all throughout the year. What else has been going on? Rotation has been going on, and these are the ones that have been hit badly. These are the ones that may be doing better if we finally start getting some rotation into the markets overall. Industrial is also only about 3% from their historic highs. Meantime, a lot of discussion about WeWorks. Is it going to impact the market for IPOs in general, outside of WeWorks? Remember, we've had a great year, 28% gain in the IPO ETF. That's been terrific overall. No sign it's impacting yet, but keep an eye on a couple of things. Yesterday, for example, some recent software IPOs were notably on the weak side. So if you take a look at some of them like Slack, Fastly, PagerDuty, CrowdStrike, Zoom, they were all down yesterday, rather notably. And Slack had some bad news on Friday. Their first earnings report was not very good. The guidance there was for decelerating earnings growth, so maybe something to keep an eye on here. As of now, though, we're holding up. I just want to know one thing. There's an ETF for everything. Speaking of ETFs, today, the vegan ETF actually launches at the NYSE. It excludes oil stocks, includes meat-based products, and you've got a lot of odd groups in there. Of course, you've got Beyond Meat in there, but you've got everything else that excludes all these other groups in here. And so you've got companies like Microsoft and Apple that don't seem like they have anything to do with vegan products. And I guess, guys, that's the problem with some of these restricted ETFs. Right. Very, very limited amount of things to buy for them. Guys, back to you.
All right, we'll see if that universe gets any larger, Bob. Thanks. Let's get to the bond pitch, too. Rick Santelli at the CME. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, Carl. We are certainly seeing an ongoing rise in global interest rates. Now, granted, it's not a torrid pace up the way it was on the downside in August, but it is steadily climbing. Look at a one-week chart of our two-year note yields. Everything on our curve's up about a basis point. And you can see clearly building there, and the distance from some of the cycle lows, whether intraday or closing levels, is starting to get to be a bit of a cushion. And that's making some that have been long nervous, especially in front of central banks meetings, which are coming this week and next week. Look at a 1 week chart of 30s. Same dynamic in place with an asterisk. Here at 212 we stand, the temperature of boiling water, but technically it is a boiling point for 30-year bonds. 209 has very special significance. When we closed below it, we accelerated. Now that we're closing above it, we should start to see some consolidation to the upside in yield. If we look at Boons actually are the longest comp here. They're currently trading at levels they haven't closed at since the 8th of August, so a little more than a month. Our long end's a little bit less than a month. Finally, with all the talk about maybe the talks with China are going to come to fruition with some sort of solution, we see that while this has been going on, the dollar yuan, the Chinese currency, has been falling against the greenback. You really can't tell a lot by looking at this chart regarding at least what the market thinks on the state of negotiations. Carl, David, Jim, back to you.
All right, Rick, thank you. It is the end of an era for Alibaba. Jack Ma retiring today as executive chairman of the Chinese e-commerce giant that he co-founded 20 years ago. CEO Daniel Zhang will succeed him in the chairman's role. Ma has grown Alibaba into a $460 billion online retail juggernaut, currently China's richest man with a net worth of almost $40 billion, according to Forbes. Kyle Bass tweeting a moment ago, like clockwork, Ma was forcibly removed and will likely be jailed or disappeared within the next year. This is how Xi and Wang treat any Chinese that become too powerful. Wow. How about that, Kyle?
That doesn't sound completely accurate to me.
Yeah.
Jack has been taking a lesser and lesser role at the company. Of course, he is its spiritual leader without a doubt, and has been. Daniel Zhang, obviously, has been the CEO, will be stepping up. And I don't necessarily think he's going anywhere.
I remember who he told me was his hero was Forrest Gump.
Well, he told us that here. I spent a lot of time with Jack, although I have not seen him in some time.
I was hoping he'd say Mao.
And listen, it is a careful.
How about Joe?
It is a very intricate dance that you do as a very powerful CEO in China with the Communist Party and with the government. Mr. Ma has done it exceedingly well.
Mao was kind of a redistributionist. I think Mao would take every dime that guy had. Maybe Kyle Bass is looking at Xi as Mao.
And then Joe Tsai is still, obviously he's very involved actually here with the basketball team, the Nets, which he's going to become the full owner of.
Yeah, I'm going to get some season tickets there. So, they entertain you enough, David? Not enough? I'm trying to entertain David. David doesn't like anything, so I'm just trying to find things.
Keep working on it.
All right,
keep working.
Yeah, I'll keep working. I saw Haagen-Dazs ice cream for $5 at the Family Dollar I went to yesterday. David, you would love the new Family Dollar.
Big Haagen-Dazs?
No, but you would love the new Family Dollar. I'm going to take him to a Family Dollar. I got 10 pairs of sunglasses at the Dollar Tree for $10. I got 5 bags of stuff at the Dollar Tree. I went to a Dollar Tree at a Family Dollar. 5 bags of stuff for $16.
So you're not a fan of the Dollar General downgrade at Bernstein?
No, that was stupid.
145 target.
No, I happen to like Dollar Tree. I didn't mean to say it was stupid. I think it's ill-advised.
Ill-advised.
Yeah.
Dow's down 48, just slightly off of session lows at the open, 29.62. We're back in just a minute.
Hero I had was Forrest Gump. 14 years ago when I watched
the chocolates?
Yeah.
You know he's a fictional character, though.
I
You
really
did
like that guy. I've been watching that movie for about 10 times. Every time when I'm frustrated, I watch the movie. And I watched movie before I came here again.
For humility.
Yeah, for coming to the New York. Because I watched the movie again and telling me that no matter whatever changed, you are you. And I'm still the guy 15 years ago.
The Bond Report is...
This one shouldn't take long. Of course, if it had a cover, I might not be bothered. Can't see what's under there. And then they'd have chained the back wheel. It would have taken me much longer, especially if the chain's off the ground. Makes it harder to cut. This one doesn't even have a lock on the front. So, in the time I've been talking to you, I've nicked it.
Over 9,000 scooters and motorbikes were stolen in London last year. Lock your bike, chain the rear wheel, and cover it to make it harder to steal. Lock, chain, cover. The Met Police.
For people who want to feel happier, stronger, fitter, get further, faster, better. For people who want to, but don't always manage to. It doesn't matter how you want to do it, who you want to do it with. It matters that you want to. Virgin Active. We'll find a way for you. Join in September and get 15% off each month on 12-month memberships. Visit virginactive.co.uk. Participating gyms. Terms and conditions apply.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Nason and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
With Parliament suspended, what does this mean for Brexit? Will there be a vote of no confidence? A general election? Turbulent times lie ahead, and our team of experts are uniquely placed to give you the inside track. Turn to The Telegraph for clarity. Subscribe now at telegraph.co.uk.
We could play epic music, or we could speak in an overdramatic tone, or even set off fireworks. But that's just not smarty. Instead, we let our offer do the talking. Right now, you can grab 25% off our unlimited data SIM. That's just $18.75 a month with no speed restrictions, no credit check, and no long contract to tie you in. Now that's smarty. Just search Smarty Mobile and switch today. It's easy. Offer available for a limited time only. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
Set for Life is the new game from the National Lottery where you can win 10 grand every month for 30 years. So go smash this month, next month, and make every month amazing. Play new Set for Life Mondays and Thursdays.
Set for Life from the National Lottery. Amazing starts here. Prize may be capped. Rules, procedures, and game-specific rules apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Summer wardrobe weather struggles? Introducing convertible wellies. 1 minute they're Wellington boots, the next flip-flops.
Convertible wellies, never going to happen, is it? But with the new BP Me Rewards card, getting more of the summer essentials you love more often will. Search BP Me Rewards to find out more.
Take a look at Apple year to date, almost 35% gain. But what will they say this afternoon about the new iPhones, about wearables, about content? You're going to have to keep your eyes peeled to the TV starting this afternoon Eastern time. Dow's down 70. We're back in a minute.
Consistency delivers.
When it comes to keeping your small business valuable information safe, Dell's small business technology advisors can recommend tailored security solutions like computers with Intel Core processors, servers, storage, networking, plus industry-leading monitors and software. Running your own small business is a big challenge, but with the right partner, it's a lot easier. To speak with an advisor today, call 0800 085 4878. That's 0800 085 4878.
The 1304 LNER train, Coach C. Taking aunties with cold hands to nephews with warm cheeks in Edinburgh. Remorseful revellers back to their beds in Leeds. Business mums gliding over the Forth Bridge towards a door in Toddlers in Newcastle. And a band heading to London to our group of strangers in a tiny pub. This is us. These are our journeys. This is our LNER.
So, what did you think of the movie, Mr. Alexander?
Oh, the cinematography, incredible, breathtaking. The movie itself was full of curious trademark themes and wonderful characteristic compositions. And the payoffs and character arcs were nothing short of masterful storytelling. How about you, Sergey?
For a kids' film, I thought the animals were fun.
Enjoy more time together with 2-for-1 cinema tickets from Meerkat Movies with the Meerkat app. When you buy, so compare the market.
Qualifying purchase, Tuesdays, Wednesdays only, participating cinemas, T's and C's apply.
At Trade Point with low prices on our brand new tiling ranges, making big jobs smaller. Like Killington Grey Marble Effect ceramic floor tiles for just £11 per square metre. So, for all you need, when you need it. Get to TradePoint or go to tradepoint.co.uk. Pack price £11.88.
Hello, Vitality Health Insurance.
Oh, hi. Is it true if I join Vitality, I get de facto 5-star rated cover, can speak to a GP 24/7, get rewarded for staying active with things like Starbucks coffee, get a little sausage dog to live with me, and you could beat my current premium by up to 10%?
Absolutely. Except one of those.
It's the dog, isn't it?
Yeah.
Time to review your health insurance. Just search Vitality Health. Vitality. Positively different. Minimum monthly premiums, terms and conditions apply.
What's that, Britain? You want unlimited data? Oh, you want more. You want it on the unstoppable, unbeaten, unrivaled #1 network? Well, who says you can't? Get unlimited data on EE today, the UK's unrivaled #1 network.
Unlimited data, personal use only. Terms apply. Root metrics comparison of 4 mobile networks H2 2013 to H1 2019. See ee.co.uk.
Jim, what's on Mad tonight?
I'm browsing the Goldman Sachs catalog. Came with Restoration Hardware and Williams-Sonoma. Okay, we have VMware. It's a very important stock because it's down big. And I have Sanjay Poonen. If that stock goes up after this interview, we're going down. I'll get back to my catalog.
Yeah, that's gorgeous production.
Dave, you see this deal? It's One Kings Lane. They've got a great share.
Beautiful.
Look at this.
Let's get to break. Mad Money tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. When we come back, Goldman's David Costin with the Dow down 79.
I can. The 2 words whispered at the start of every race. Every new job. And attempt to parallel park. Each new draft of every novel. The finishing touch on every masterpiece. It is humanity's official 2-word war cry. Words that move us all forward. The same 2 words that Capital Group believes have the power to improve lives, and that for over 85 years have inspired us to help people achieve their financial goals. Talk to your advisor or consultant for investment risks and information.
So my husband and I are remodeling our kitchen. Do you know any good contractors? Maybe. Oh, that's great. Can you find me the highest rated pros, then book me the best one for the job?
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything HomeAdvisor can. So just ask HomeAdvisor.
The problem with traditional cotton sheets is that they trap heat and moisture. That's not how you get a great night's sleep. So we invented Chic's Performance Bed Sheets, which can do all the things that cotton can't.
You sweat a little bit every single night, and Chic's will help keep you cool. In this steam demonstration, you can see how Chic's breathes 10 times better than cotton, releases heat, and wicks moisture to keep you dry as you sleep.
Cotton definitely can't do that.
Sheets are as soft as you can imagine. They're just incredible. I've never felt a sheet that soft before.
We guarantee Chic's will be the best sheets you'll ever own.
Call or go to trycheeks.com now to sleep better every night. Order your Chic's Performance Sheet Set in your choice of size and color. You'll get 25% off when you use the promo code on your screen. Plus 2 additional pillowcases free. That's a total savings of up to $100. Sleep on Chic's for 30 nights, and if you're not satisfied, we'll give you a full refund. Go online now and see how Chic's deliver the ultimate deep sleep experience.
There's golf. And there's the golf lifestyle. Shop with Golf has everything you need to go from the drinks to the links, to the boardwalk and the boardroom. This is the sweet spot for the moments you love and the looks you'll love even more. Because golf's more than a game. It's a lifestyle. Live the lifestyle at shopwithgolf.com.
Technology and the future of work. November 4th in San Francisco. CNBC's At Work Summit. Top CEOs and tech leaders reimagining the workplace. Go to cnbcevents.com for tickets. Sponsored by Workday.
Good Good Tuesday morning. Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with contestant brewer David Faber at the New York Stock Exchange. Sarah Eisen has the morning off. Dow down 77 here after a nice string of gains for the Dow, and the S&P really hasn't moved a whole lot in the last couple of sessions. Our roadmap's going to begin with Apple's big day. We'll bring you full team coverage ahead of their product announcement just a few hours away.
Plus, WeWork's some battled IPO plans. Sources say it is, quote, full speed ahead on its road to a public debut.
And a new front in big tech's antitrust battle, the states. We'll hear from Minnesota's Attorney General on why he's investigating Google and why data privacy is a top focus.
Some breaking news, though, we want to get to out of Washington, D.C. Diana Ola catching up with Treasury Secretary Mnuchin moments ago as he gets prepared to testify about restructuring the GSEs. Diana.
That's right, and I spoke with Secretary Mnuchin and asked him his reaction to a court ruling Friday that said that the Treasury sweep of billions of dollars of Fannie and Freddie profits was illegal. His reaction was this.
We're looking at it carefully, and we're considering what to do about it, including we're going to consider appealing it to the Supreme Court. So there's aspects of it. There's two parts of it. One is obviously the cash flow sweep, and that's what the Treasury is looking at.
So clearly this battle is not over yet. The Treasury Secretary again saying they may take this to the Supreme Court. The Treasury has swept about $110 billion more than Fannie and Freddie ever drew from Treasury. That is since the conservatorship, and we'll be hearing a lot more in the Senate Banking Committee coming up. We'll keep you posted. Back to you guys.
Yeah, Diana, the administration has the power to stop the sweep right now. I just want to understand what they need legislation to do and what they can actually do on their own in terms of remaking, so to speak, Fannie and Freddie.
Well, the Treasury can stop the sweep whenever it wants. And in fact, part of the president's plan that was released last week from the Treasury was that they would perhaps lower the Treasury sweep in order to recapitalize Fannie and Freddie and get them back on their feet again. They wouldn't give any specific numbers. Right now, Fannie and Freddie are allowed to hold $3 billion in capital, but the Treasury is sweeping billions more every quarter. The question is, would they stop that sweep in the next quarter? They had said in the release last week that they would be negotiating with FHFA, which is Fannie and Freddie's regulator, but they do have the power to stop the sweep anytime they want.
All right, Diana, thanks. We'll watch for more this morning. In the meantime, markets under a tiny bit of pressure here. Dow coming off its fourth straight positive session. Trade advisor Navarro joining Squawk this morning, expressing continued optimism on China trade talks and his takeaway for Wall Street.
For investors, I think, look, play the long game here, see the chessboard. I think the Chinese really do want a deal. They're getting hammered by the Trump tariffs. They're having to cut their prices, manipulate their currency down into the toilet, really, and they're losing their supply chain.
Joining us this morning at Post 9, Goldman Sachs Chief U.S. Equity Strategist David Costin is back. David, it's good to have you. Welcome again. Sorry?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you, too. ISM contraction hasn't really made you change your targets, at least for this year and next.
No, so the big questions on a lot of portfolio managers' minds relate to the inverted yield curve, the ISM contraction, questions about the trade dispute with China. On the other hand, the ISM services non-manufacturing survey was actually pretty strong, steady at like 56, so basically indicating the services side of the economy, which is frankly more important in overall context than manufacturing at this juncture. And then there's some expectation that perhaps there's some hope for trade negotiations, some discussions that are taking place. I think the market has seized on that a little bit, and the market is now roughly sort of 29.75, and our price target for the end of this year is 3,100. So that's about 4% above where we are today. Pretty much in line with the idea that the economy is still growing modestly, and that would be consistent with a little bit higher earnings for next year.
Yesterday's, it's one-day move, but the shift in momentum, the way in which some of these long-forgotten energy names have come back to life, you think that's a sign of something?
Well, wouldn't necessarily take one day as a trend making, but we look at some of the fundamentals as to where the economy is going, and some of the technology companies still remain growing, more of the services oriented in terms of subscriptions and software as a service, which there's some visible revenue growth. I think is a key attribute that portfolio managers at this juncture are really looking for in an uncertain environment. If there's a debate about whether this downturn is going to persist or whether the economy is going to continue to or may recover or in terms of accelerate, that's been a debate. Where do you find investment opportunities? So it tends to be be where there's some more visible revenue growth. Some of the longer-term contracts, you look at the defense area, for example, almost all the revenues coming from the U.S. government. Those are areas to focus on for us.
You're really looking at elevated consumer spending as one of the big drivers for the economy. And yet when we look at the non-revolving credit, it rose to a record high, more than $3 trillion. You've got household debt, excluding mortgages, now to the second most high level since August of 2016. Do you have any concern that the consumer is just stretching too thin?
Look at the consumer. 70% of the U.S. economy is the consumer. So clearly that's a vital issue to focus on. So you have unemployment at 3.7%, the lowest in 50 years. Wages are rising, 3.2%, latest reading on Friday, so that suggests that there's some real wage inflation, real wage growth, which is a positive. And consumer balance sheets are actually among the strongest they've been in a decade. There's been deleveraging going on. So in aggregate, you can look at the numbers, but when we think about it in terms of their coverage ratio, in terms of their household financial obligations, it's actually quite in a comfortable zone from our perspective. On the corporate side, leverage has come up a lot, and that's perhaps more of an area of concern as opposed to the consumer.
I want to get back to this idea that Carl was bringing up the last few days in the marketplace. We've seen this dramatic reversal in terms of what at least investors want to own, or some, which is now value and dividend-paying stocks seem to be in favor suddenly. Right. And it's been a violent move. Do you think that's something that's going to sustain itself? And we're watching some of these momentum names. Take a look at Roku, for example, over the last couple of trading days, really decline. Is that sustainable? Is that a sign of something?
Well, so the 10-year Treasury yield now is down around 1.5. Well, it's been fluctuating between kind of 145 to 160, basically, in the last couple of weeks. So in that environment, with those level of interest rates and the expectation that the Fed is going to be cutting rates, my colleague, at Goldman, Jan Hatz, says we're looking for a Fed cut in September and then another cut in October. That leads to an attraction for the dividend yield stocks, and stocks that have yield, perhaps yield and growth, the combination of those. And those would be the argument why that is becoming more in favor. There's a desire for income.
Well, do you like value and dividend payers more than you like growth right now?
No, I prefer to own as a portfolio. We prefer to tilt towards growth. The idea the economy is continuing to grow, not at a robust pace, but at a modest pace, would tilt towards growth stocks outperforming. That's one of the reasons, and Jim mentioned earlier, we did this analysis of all of the initial public offerings done in the United States in the last 25 years. That's 4,500 companies. One of the reasons there's such a focus on the IPO market is because the opportunity set for perhaps faster growth in some cases. Some cases, less growth, but that's basically a big area of focus.
Right. Well, you're referencing this very lovely, glossy 42-page report, David. Well done by you and the team.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm not going to read it all, sorry to say. What do I need to know about the performance of all these IPOs that you studied in terms of how I should approach them in the current market?
I think you want to approach it in two ways. You can think of it as a portfolio manager, and you can think of it as an individual stock investor. What are the characteristics of initial public offerings, those companies that go public, that tend to outperform? And in general, companies that have revenue growth north of 40%, above 40%, and have a path to profitability, positive net income by year 2, those have the highest probability of outperforming. That's been a consistent pattern for 25 years. And that's, if I had to bring it down to as a stock picker, that's putting the highest probability of an outperforming stock in your portfolio.
I want a path to profitability in the relatively near term, at least within a year to 18 months of them going public.
Well, there is no statistical relationship between whether a company makes money in the first year and whether it outperforms over time. So first year is less, the statistics will tell you 4,500 IPOs in the last 25 years would tell you that's not a relevant metric in terms of an identifying a signal for outperformance. But profitability, net income, positive net income in year 2 and year 3, that is a metric. And then the magnitude of sales growth and top line revenue growth is a key driver. So if you see companies with very rapid revenue growth, they tend to outperform. Now, it's not shocking, but what is interesting is that companies, as they have delayed going public, more and more value tends to inure to the private shareholders because your growth rate, as you're an older company, if you will, tends to be slower. So that becomes an issue to focus on as well.
We started by talking about ISM going into contraction on the manufacturing side. You're not afraid of industrials. In fact, you're overweighting them because contraction doesn't mean recession in your view, right?
It doesn't necessarily mean it's down to 49, just below 50. So is that necessarily indicative of a recession? Not necessarily. It's certainly something that people focus on. As I said earlier, when we think about the industrial sector, there's a lot of different components to that. And if you think about specifically in the defense area, those stocks tend to have stronger, more visible revenue growth. So there's a premium paid for if there's a desire to have some visibility. If you're concerned as a portfolio manager about whether the ISM falling below 50 is indicative of a contraction, well, then you would tilt in favor of some of the more defense-oriented stocks.
One issue that's getting a lot of attention this morning is the investigations by the attorneys general, pretty much nationwide, into the big tech and whether there's been anti-competitive practices. Are you concerned? Are you looking at this as an overhang for these tech stocks?
Well, if we look at precedent, we can see what happened in the antitrust investigations of IBM. Look at AT&T. Look at Microsoft. What is the experience been in those various episodes in the past? One, we know two things. We know that the growth rate in sales before the government filed its actions, and the growth rate at the time of the ultimate resolution, in some cases many years later, there was a huge deceleration in the growth rate. And the second thing we know is the valuations diminished meaningfully from the time before the government initiated its actions and by the time of the final resolution. So that would tell you that the precedent is for slower growth and a lower valuation. Now, does that necessarily mean in every case that you mentioned in terms of these attorneys generals? I mean, there's lots of investigations will go on. This could go on for multiple years. I have no insight into that specifically, but the evidence would suggest it's a potential risk, and then you have to evaluate the probability of there being a negotiated settlement or what have you in terms of what's taking place. But as it is now, it seems like it's a headline, certainly, but not necessarily impacting the business.
One last thing, given how many times you've come on and talked about buybacks and their role in equity prices, why are you not concerned about the slower pace?
What is certainly an issue. The pace of growth in buybacks has declined meaningfully, and it's an area that we're focusing on a lot of attention right now. The authorizations are still meaningfully up, and the pace of buybacks in some cases is actually meaningful for some companies. But on an aggregate basis, yes, it's lower, and that's definitely an area of some focus right now. In terms of how that adds to accretion of earnings growth, so I think that's if we think about the overall economy will grow, there's revenue growth for companies, not a lot of margin expansion, frankly, there's margin pressures, and the question is whether there'll be some buybacks, and I think there'll be relatively somewhat less buyback demand than we were originally anticipating.
Okay. We'll talk more about that next time. Good to see you, DK.
I see you.
Thank you. David Costin.
When we come back, the countdown to Apple's big reveal event is on. We're going to tell you what to expect ahead of another big day for Apple. Plus, we've got the latest on WeWork's road to an IPO. And, of course, as we told you, sources indicating it is full speed ahead. Details straight ahead when Squawk on the Street comes right back.
At Southern New Hampshire University.
For people who want to feel happier, stronger, fitter, get further, faster, better. For people who want to, but don't always manage to. It doesn't matter how you want to do it, who you want to do it with. It matters that you want to. Virgin Active. We'll find a way for you. Join in September and get 15% off each month on 12-month memberships. Visit virginactive.co.uk. Participating gyms. Terms and conditions apply.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
With Parliament suspended, what does this mean for Brexit? Will there be a vote of no confidence? A general election? Turbulent times lie ahead, and our team of experts are uniquely placed to give you the inside track. Turn to The Telegraph for clarity. Subscribe now at telegraph.co.uk.
1 in 4 children believe potatoes grow on trees. 1 in 5 children believe fish fingers are made from chicken. and 1 in 8 adults believe the moon landings didn't happen. People believe all sorts of strange things. Some people believe that insurance companies try to avoid paying claims. But last year, Zurich paid 99% of insurance claims made by their UK customers. Zurich, an insurance company you can believe in. To find out more, visit zurich.co.uk/99.
We could play epic music, or we could speak in an overdramatic tone, or even set off fireworks. But that's just not smarty. Instead, we let our offer do the talking. Right now, you can grab 25% off our unlimited data SIM. That's just $18.75 a month with no speed restrictions, no credit check, and no long contract to tie you in. Now that's smarty. Just search Smarty Mobile and switch today. It's easy. Offer available for a limited time only. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
Call it Apple's moment of truth, set to unveil its latest iPhone lineup and other product updates just a few hours from now. New phone features expected to include upgraded processors and new camera functionality. The event will take place at Apple's headquarters in California. It's going to start at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. But for a company increasingly focused on services, is it going to be enough to move the needle for investors? We're going to bring you full team coverage, and we've got some right now. In fact, Julia Borston, Josh Lipton are both live at Apple's HQ, and John Ford joins us right here on set. John, anything you're looking for that you're going to be focused on when the event begins and during the course of it?
I think pricing, when it comes to the iPhone, is the most important thing. Not just on what we expect to be called the iPhone 11 line, right? Because it's all the questions about, are there going to be tariffs, will they, won't there, and how that will play out. There are different ways that they could play this with still charging the same amount for memory, where the price of that has gone down so they can protect their margins there. But also, how much do they reduce the price of the iPhone 10? How much do they reduce the price of the iPhone 8? The margins on those tend to get much better over time, and if they reduce a little less than before, they're still attractive to people who don't need the latest iPhone, but Apple ends up giving themselves some cushion. And then services. I mean, it's kind of similar to the Disney story in that, on the one hand, it's not the bulk of revenue, but it might be the bulk of the valuation argument that Apple ends up, in effect, making to investors. If services look good, investors might be more willing to give Apple more of a multiple.
Yeah. And Julia, speaking of the Disney story, you certainly follow very closely the content creation efforts of all of these companies. Are we expecting to hear anything on that? And is there sort of some buzz out there about what we may or may not get?
Well, the last time I was out here, David, was for that Apple TV Plus announcement, and Apple said that it would launch this fall, so there is some hope that we'll get an exact launch date for that Apple TV Plus streaming service, likely sometime in November. And also, we're looking to get a price tag for it. It's expected to be about $10 a month. And then, of course, there's the question about how Apple may bundle together that streaming service with Apple Music and some of the other new services it's offering. So definitely a question of that bundle, especially in light, David, of Disney's bundling of Hulu along with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. So we'll see what we learn today.
And Josh, talk to me a little bit about the Apple iPhone and whether you can still get people excited when there's not some big new innovations coming, if it's just about improved camera and improved processing.
Yeah, so some of the updates we expect to see today, at least, wouldn't be that faster processor, improved camera system. I'd mention that is important when you look at surveys, why consumers upgrade. It is often because they want that better camera. Also, other features we might see today, some stronger waterproofing and shatter resistance. As John mentioned, the big bogey is price. Certainly, you know, expectations are pretty muted here, though. I checked in with Gene Munster over at Loop Ventures. He thinks total iPhone units in that critical holiday quarter, his bogey is 63.5 million. That would actually be down 1% year over year. So muted expectations for iPhone revenue and units. On the other hand, some analysts do say, listen, there are a lot of really old iPhones still out there, an estimated 200 million iPhone 6 or earlier. So perhaps that suggests there could be many people who are willing to upgrade here, guys.
John, we talked with Kramer this morning about what else they could possibly fold into this. I mean, any reason to think they talk more about the shows they're developing? Could that be another layer they add to the hardware discussion?
I think they might, and I think we might hear more on Arcade, Apple Arcade. Expect to hear that. That's their kind of gaming-based service. Remember, games are really the big kahuna when it comes to the App Store, what Apple really sells and makes money on there. So the potential, really, for them to do well with a game service is big. Also, these iPhone announcements, they tend to bring gaming developers up on stage. Here's a prime opportunity for them to sell Arcade, which really focuses on the mid-tier of the mobile gaming market, not the blockbuster games and not the really tiny ones, the ones in the middle that are sort of artfully made, but the business has trouble really monetizing. This could help them to do that. And if they show something amazing, maybe investors take interest.
Julia, is there a sense yet that Hollywood is somehow intimidated by the content that they've at least teased so far?
Well, I think people are eager to see a lot more of the content, and that really raises the question, though, of how much of the content that they teased at that first Apple TV Plus announcement will be part of the service at launch. And, you know, Apple explained that they're going to be really just focused on these few premium shows with big names, such as Oprah, such as Reese Witherspoon, but they are not going to be doing any library. And the question is, how much content will there be at launch? If it does cost $10 a month, how many sort of months free will they give to subscribers of their other services to get people locked in? And will they announce any additional content? Because really going with just that top tier handful of shows, there's a question whether that will be enough, especially right off the bat, to get people to subscribe.
I mean, Julie, I think you and I can answer it. I mean, Disney's going to be out there at $6.99, $7 with, we know what they've got there. I don't get what Apple's thinking here. I don't understand how they think they can hit the market with a $9.99 or $10 price that anybody really is going to pay for, at least what we're aware of right now, as you say, with no library.
Well, look, I think what Apple is thinking is that people will not come to them for a library. What they want is new, original, exclusive content, and they've been dropping some of the teaser trailers for their shows, and there's been enthusiasm, but they're really just going very big on each one of these projects. High budgets, big name producers, big name talent, and we'll see if they announce more of it, but the hope is that they'll lure people in with that big content, and they're not going to do bingeable shows, at least. It seems like they're going to be spreading some of them out over time. So unlike Netflix, where you could just show up, arrive and binge everything, they want to get people into the system where they're going to keep subscribing every month so they can keep seeing that next episode.
David, I'm with you on this. I heard you talking about it earlier this morning. Based on what they've announced so far, this looks like the worst deal in streaming by far. It's like, let's take the company that has the least experience making shows, giving us the fewest shows, charging the most. Who wants that?
It's a little early, isn't it?
I'm saying based on what we know so far, they've been talking about this for months. It looks terrible.
People who love Apple tend to give Apple a chance, and then you add big names like Oprah Winfrey onto it, and look, she's had a golden touch in many other areas of her businesses, and that's what Apple is banking on. They're not banking on a library, they're banking on the big name and the right now.
I'm not declaring that it's going to be. I'm saying based on what we know so far, this is very un-Apple. They're taking some big names, old names, and they look like they're set to put a big.
Oprah old,
this is not. Yes, Oprah's been around for a while.
I mean, do you see the actors in the show the key show that they're going to have? Come on, it's like they're not going after millennials.
I expect Apple to step it up, is what I'm saying here.
They're going to have to.
This is not what they do in hardware.
But Julia, they seem determined never to do the big deal, never to buy a content company. They want to build it themselves, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, look, they're making deals with the big content producers in Hollywood, but they've definitely decided so far not to make any big content acquisitions. And I think the real question, though, to your point, though, about the pricing and how much they're going to have at launch, is how they bundle it in with all the services they already have. I mean, Apple Music, which is different because music is a commoditized service. Everyone pretty much has the same music. That went from nothing to millions and millions of subscribers so quickly because Apple has that install base. They already have, the opportunity to give you a free trial, to recommend that you try something out. So I think that if they say if you're subscribing to Apple Music, you get this for free for 3 months, then maybe you get a bundle with Apple Music, so you're not paying an additional $10. I think that could really be transformative for the service scaling up.
Julia, thank you very much. Josh, John, thank you so much for the conversation. Still to come, attorneys general from 48 states, from D.C., from Puerto Rico, launching an investigation into Google. We'll hear from one of them when Squawk on the Street returns.
The S&P 500, the benchmark.
Working on a tablet has never been so good, whatever you're doing. With the Samsung Galaxy Tab S6, you've got all the power of a PC. It's sleek, slender and stylish, with a battery life of up to 14 hours. But it's not all work, you know. Get creative with the advanced S Pen, or enjoy better gaming and movies. With its epic 10.5-inch screen and quad AKG speakers. We'll also give you an extra £50 off the Tab S6 when you trade in your old tablet or laptop. At Curry's PC World. T's and C's apply.
LinkedIn Learning offers more than 14,000 online courses to help you achieve your goals. Its short video tutorials cover business, technology, and creative skills employers look for at every level, all taught by real-world industry experts. And new courses are added every week. Plus, LinkedIn Learning is personalized, recommending courses based on your interests and skills. Start your free trial at linkedinlearning.com. Cancel within the first month to avoid any charges.
What's going on, peoples of London? If your signature dish is charcoal or smoke alarm go off when dinner's ready, then you commit crimes against cooking. So thank goodness for Meerkat Meals. Dine out with 2-for-1 on food at your local favorites, like Chicago Rib Shack Wandsworth and Pizza Hut. All with the Meerkat app when you buy through Compare the Market. Uh-oh, dinner's ready. Sergey, get your coat.
Qualifying purchase 2-for-1 on equivalent starters, mains and desserts, a la carte only, Sunday to Thursday, T's and C's and exclusions apply.
This one shouldn't take long. Of course, if it had a cover, I might not be bothered. Can't see what's under there. And then they'd have chained the back wheel. It would have taken me much longer, especially if the chain's off the ground. Makes it harder to cut. This one doesn't even have a lock on the front. So, in the time I've been talking to you, I've nicked it.
Over 9,000 scooters and motorbikes were stolen in London last year. Lock your bike, chain the rear wheel, and cover it to make it harder to steal. Lock, chain, cover. The Met Police.
For people who want to feel happier, stronger, fitter, get further, faster, better. For people who want to, but don't always manage to. It doesn't matter how you want to do it, who you want to do it with. It matters that you want to. Virgin Active. We'll find a way for you. Join in September and get 15% off each month on 12-month memberships. Visit virginactive.co.uk. Participating gyms. Terms and conditions apply.
Nurses like you love the RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Here's why.
It's an easy way to get your CPD hours.
There are loads of job opportunities on the day.
The free workshops are great for learning something new.
It's an event just for us. The RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Coming to London on the 17th and 18th of September. Register now for free entry. Search RCNI events.
Time now for our ETF Spotlight. We want to take a look at oil continuing to climb higher this morning. Coming off its fourth straight positive session, nearly erasing all of August's losses. The XOP leading the way with a gain of almost 3%. The broader sector on pace for its fifth positive session in a row. And a deeper look at the XLE's top holdings here. Exxon, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, all seeing significant boosts. Still, energy remains the biggest laggard so far this year. It has risen more than 5%, but slowly.
All right, when we come back, State AG is taking on Google, obviously. We're going to hear from Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison on that investigation when Squawk on the Street returns. Dow's down 70.
ETF Spotlight is sponsored by Invesco QQ.
No. No. No.
What are you doing?
I don't like any of our preset radio stations. We need a new car.
With the Jaguar E-Pace at $299 a month on personal contract hire, you'll find a reason.
That's better. And it's a Jaguar.
Initial rental £3,588. 48-month term. Subject to status. 8,000 miles per annum. Excess mileage and return conditions apply. No ownership option. Ends 30th of September. Participating retailers only. Jaguar contract hire.
Strength and things. Strength and things. Strength and things. Strength and things. Strings and things and strings, strings, strings and things. Strings, strings, strings and things. Strings, strings, strings and things. Strings and
Now there's a whole range of strings and things called strings and things, including cheese strings, yollies, and new cheese shapes. Find them all in the cheese and yogurt aisle.
Strings and things.
I'm home. Hi, Mum. Wow, what's that?
Saltwater supercars from Shell. Toy cars that run on salt water.
Science-fueled family fun. Fill up with £30 or more and you'll qualify to buy a car from just $3.99.
Track ready.
Check.
Saltwater ready.
Check.
Go!
Fill up on fun with saltwater supercars at Shell. Participating sites, conditions apply. See shell.co.uk/saltwater supercars for details.
Make sure you're uni-ready with our huge range of practical essentials and home-from-home comforts and get 10% off for a limited time. T's and C's and exclusions apply. Dunelm, the home of homes.
With Parliament suspended, what does this mean for Brexit? Will there be a vote of no confidence? A general election? Turbulent times lie ahead, and our team of experts are uniquely placed to give you the inside track. Turn to The Telegraph for clarity. Subscribe now at telegraph.co.uk.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sue Herrera. Here's your CNBC News update at this hour. The British government has formally suspended Parliament, sending lawmakers home for weeks amid a Brexit crisis. The legislature was officially suspended with a formal ceremony in the House of Lords. Lawmakers will return on October 14th. Former UN chief Ban Ki-moon has challenged President Trump's stance on climate change, calling Trump's comments scientifically wrong and politically irresponsible. He was speaking in Beijing.
Unless we work together across borders and political divides, the suffering will only increase. Only it will be borne by those who are most vulnerable economically, socially, and politically.
Convicted insider trader Raj Rajaratnam was released from prison this summer to home confinement for good behavior, thanks in part to Kim Kardashian. The New York Post reporting he didn't have to move into a halfway house because he qualified for special treatment under the First Step Act, a series of criminal justice reforms that President Trump signed into law last year after Kardashian lobbied for it. You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. Guys, I'll send it back downtown to you. Contessa?
Nice to have friends in high places. Sue, thank you. The antitrust headwinds for the big tech industry now turns to the states. Attorneys general from nearly every state and territory are launching an investigation into Google yesterday. It comes on the heels of a separate multi-state investigation into Facebook. I spoke with Minnesota's Attorney General, Keith Ellison, a short time ago and asked him what he's looking to find in this Google investigation.
We're looking to improve competition in the U.S. tech market. We're looking to make sure that we have strong innovation, price competition, wage competition for workers. As you know, monopolies and oligopolies tend to be able to just tell workers, here's the pay, take it or leave it. So, whenever you see a concentrating market, really it hurts everybody except for the people who own that particular monopoly. The U.S. economy works because there is antitrust enforcement, and that's what we're aiming for.
When it comes to the privacy concerns that many attorneys general, including yourself, are you concerned that that there may have been an overstep in privacy due to lack of regulation?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I am. I think that one of the concerns we have is that when big tech companies use people's data, they use it because they think it'll be profitable to do so. But I would say there's been an industry-wide lack of concern for the security of that data and for the privacy of the individual. I mean, my concern is that companies profit from access to big data and individual people's data, and yet they externalize the expense associated with protecting that data and people's privacy. That's a problem, and we've got to fix that. We've got to address that.
So who else is in your target? Will you sign on to the New York Attorney General's investigation into Facebook? Will Amazon come on your desk and you'll continue this investigation into big tech and how big it is with a look at Amazon?
All these markets are highly concentrated. All of these particular companies have demonstrated what I regard as anti-competitive behavior, and I'm concerned about all of them, quite honestly, to tell you the truth.
You know, you heard Keith there talk about the lack of regulation, and he has said before that he feels like the feds have failed to act on this front. But I pressed him on if there's a lack of regulation, why is that falling onto the laps of attorneys general, who are really law enforcement officials, to enforce laws if they don't exist? I mean, if this is the Wild West for big tech and they have taken advantage of that, isn't this the job of the legislature on a federal level and legislatures at the state level? And he said he's planning to use laws that are on the books where it comes to competition, where it does come to privacy, and really dive down into the details there to get into these issues.
We'll see. We've talked to at least, 3 AGs in the past 24 hours. Maybe we'll talk to all 48.
Apparently we've got another 4.
Yeah.
A bunch more to come. And, of course, we can't forget that the Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice also have initiated investigations, sort of split their, respectively, the key companies involved here. And so that is ongoing as well. And apparently, at least according to some of these state AGs we've spoken to, there is a level of cooperation between the federal government's investigations and the states.
We'll keep an eye on that. In the meantime, getting some news out of the Business Roundtable as well. Speaking of data privacy and big tech, 51 CEOs from the Business Roundtable sending a letter to Congress urging policymakers to pass a comprehensive national data privacy law. It was signed by the CEOs of Amazon, Salesforce, IBM, JP Morgan, Walmart, as well as our parent company Comcast, among many others, trying to get some details on what exactly they're looking to focus on. But pretty diverse group of CEOs all focused on data privacy.
It's a little bit like asking the wolves to guard the hen houses.
Yeah, maybe trying to get ahead of it, maybe get ahead of more legislation, unclear. They've been doing a number of interesting things at the Business Roundtable. I mean, they've
been more vocal than usual.
I mean, coming back to the statement of a few weeks ago, I think, which really was sort of groundbreaking, maybe.
On the purpose of a corporation.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, which could be, of course, either, it's been viewed two ways, either as something very significant for them to have changed their view in terms of shareholder value being the one and only key metric to judge progress by, and or just lip service. Right. They didn't really mean.
Although I think if it was lip service, they could have just done nothing. I'm not sure,
I know.
It would have been easy to do nothing. And yet they took this step. But we'll see whether the rubber meets the road.
We do. And again, as we move deeper into this presidential election year next year and this debate about what capitalism is, sort of where the Trump administration stands, it's going to be very interesting to hear all that. Moving on this morning, let's also talk about a story that we've been following. Our own Leslie Picker's here as well. She's been following it too, which is the expected initial public offering of the Wheat Company. Of course, the S1 out a couple of weeks ago. Wasn't met exactly with what you would say is rousing applause, but the company is undeterred, at least according to people who are close to the process that I've been speaking to. And you could see a roadshow to begin the IPO process as soon as Monday of next week. I'm told they are moving full speed ahead. Leslie Picker's here as well. You've been following it closely, saying something quite similar this morning, despite one of the stories about SoftBank's potential opposition. And I've been trying to make the point, SoftBank may say, God, we wish you wouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that they're not going to.
Right. The buck stops with WeWork at the end of the day, despite the fact that SoftBank has already put in almost $11 billion into this company. They're the largest shareholder, owning about 30%. SoftBank doesn't want them to do this because of the tepid reception they've received from investors. WeWork has received from investors, which would, of course, cause that valuation to be slashed from where SoftBank recently invested. So from SoftBank's standpoint, this isn't a good look for them, especially after they were big investors in Slack. They were big investors in Uber. Both of those companies, since their debuts, are down quite substantially. And so if you take WeWork, which is looking at a valuation about a third of what SoftBank paid at the higher level.
The last round was $47 billion. Now they had invested a good amount prior to that at a lower number.
Right.
And the last investment came after they had, at least Massa wanted to go up past 50%.
Yes, he wouldn't take control.
But the Saudis, his key investors in Vision Fund 1, said no. No.
And now they can't control them. Right. And so, to your point, according to two people I spoke with, they had an all-hands-on-deck meeting last night to try and figure out exactly what to do inside WeWork. And it sounds like they do want to proceed forward with this deal, they need the cash to operate their business and execute their expansion plans.
If WeWork were to listen to SoftBank, what's their alternative for finding that cash?
That's the key question here, because SoftBank technically could, I don't want to use the word bailout, but if they really don't want this IPO to move forward, what WeWork says they need is more capital, and that would be the point of doing an IPO. So theoretically, SoftBank could put even more money into this company to allow them to postpone an IPO for the foreseeable future. But it's not clear that SoftBank wants to do that. Like I said, they put $10.5 billion and they've already, upset certain LPs that have, when they wanted to take control. And so it's unclear that they'll even have the ability to put a decent amount in. I mean, you're looking at $9 billion in capital that could be raised from this IPO when you account for the amount of equity that would be raised, as well as the amount in a concurrent credit
offering
facility.
that's dependent on it, right, to a certain extent, them doing the IPO.
Exactly.
Well, to that point, I mean, the optics here going public aren't great, right?
Right.
One of your major shareholders wants you to hold off because they're worried about valuation, but you want to do it because you need the cash.
Right.
What's the bullish argument coming out of that on IPO day?
That I think is the key question. And, in any deal that we've seen throughout history, I've never seen a deal quite like this one, where you've got a set, no set plans. It's kind of everything's in flux up until this point. Are they going to pull it? Are they not? You've got these various stakeholders that are trying to really figure out what works in their own best incentives. And so it's confusing and it's complicated. And I don't actually know what the outcome will be for this company, especially since amid all these headlines, you've got this big overhang that is spooking investors in the process. The longer you wait, the more investors are saying, okay, I knew there were risks before, but now it's looking even riskier. And by the day, by the hour, by the headline, it looks even riskier.
They got one key thing, and that's that guy.
Yeah.
And when they unleash him next week or whenever the roadshow starts and he starts making his pitch, he's pretty darn effective. And he's a believer. Some people say, well, you don't want to necessarily go with a charismatic CEO, founder, but Adam Neumann is probably many people say one of the greatest single salesmen they've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And so, and Massa certainly believes that as well, or at least believes in the vision. And so, I don't think you can underestimate the power that he has of persuading people. Not to mention, if you come in at, let's call it, Leslie, an $18 to $19 billion valuation, you may see some interest.
Yeah.
You may see some real interest. I mean, it's not as though the company isn't growing very quickly. It is.
And investors who specialize in real estate have said that the assets are really good. The underlying assets are really good, which is why you've seen such popularity and interest in their bonds. Not so much as of recent, but in the past, there has been a lot of interest in the real estate, the assets that they hold. I think the key question here, if you're going to hold the equity, are you going to put it behind someone?
He's got his believers, though. I
Right.
mean, Jamie Dimon is very much involved in this, from everything I hear.
And David Solomon as well,
Yep.
from Goldman.
And so he's got his believers. Now, of course, they see future business opportunities. They've lent money, but
Credit facility plus underwriting fees.
very interesting.
It's a pretty good deal for them.
But you know what? Jamie Dimon doesn't get involved in everybody's IPO.
Yeah.
So.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, we thought the S1 was dramatic. This is getting really interesting.
Yeah, there's a book here somewhere.
You can write it. I'm not.
I don't know.
Thanks, LP.
Thank you.
As we go to break, get a check on shares of Ford today under pressure. As you probably saw yesterday, Moody's cut the debt to junk. The firm says it expects weaker earnings and cash generation as it pursues a, quote, lengthy and costly restructuring plan. Dow's down 70 points, pretty steady. We're back in a minute.
For farmers here, this is our life's work.
This one shouldn't take long. Of course, if it had a cover, I might not be bothered. Can't see what's under there. And they'd have chained the back wheel. It would have taken me much longer, especially if the chain's off the ground. Makes it harder to cut. This one doesn't even have a lock on the front. So, in the time I've been talking to you, I've nicked it.
Over 9,000 scooters and motorbikes were stolen in London last year. Lock your bike, chain the rear wheel, and cover it to make it harder to steal. Lock, chain, cover. The Met Police.
For people who want to feel happier, stronger, fitter, get further, faster, better. For people who want to, but don't always manage to. It doesn't matter how you want to do it, who you want to do it with. It matters that you want to. Virgin Active. We'll find a way for you. Join in September and get 15% off each month on 12-month memberships. Visit virginactive.co.uk. Participating gyms. Terms and conditions apply.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
1 in 4 children believe potatoes grow on trees. 1 in 5 children believe fish fingers are made from chicken. And 1 in 8 adults believe the moon landings didn't happen. People believe all sorts of strange things. Some people believe that insurance companies try to avoid paying claims. But last year, Zurich paid 99% of insurance claims made by their UK customers. Zurich, an insurance company you can believe in. To find out more, visit zurich.co.uk/99.
There's a problem lurking in the job market that could spell trouble for the broader economy. Find out more on tradingnation.cnbc.com. More Squawk to the Streets is coming up.
You know that tech stock we talked about?
We could play epic music, or we could speak in an overdramatic tone, or even set off fireworks. But that's just not smarty. Instead, we let our offer do the talking. Right now, you can grab 25% off our unlimited data SIM. That's just $18.75 a month with no speed restrictions, no credit check, and no long contract to tie you in. Now that's smarty. Just search Smarty Mobile and switch today. It's easy. Offer available for a limited time only. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
Smouldering, slinky, seductive, streamlined, spellbinding. Ever notice how some of the most alluring descriptions seem to begin with the letter S? So perhaps it's no coincidence that S-Line, Audi's most stylish trim, does too. Take the A3 Sportback S-Line. With its added standout, there's another one, details, it's pure Audi. Just even more sporty, stealthy, sleek, striking, swish, sublime, sultry, swoony. The supremely stylish Audi A3 Sportback S-Line. Test drive yours at West London Audi or search Audi S-Line. Audi, Vorsprung durch Technik.
Baxter International announcing it will acquire Cheetah Medical in order to grow personalized therapy and care. Our Meg Terrell joins us now with a special guest to discuss in a CNBC exclusive interview. Hi, Meg.
Hey, Contessa, and joining us now is Baxter CEO Joe Almeida. Joe, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Meg.
Let's start with your news today, acquiring Cheetah Medical. Tell us about why this makes sense for Baxter and what it says about your M&A strategy.
Well, we acquired Cheetah Medical because the platform it brings to the company is a monitoring technology for hemodialysis balance for the patients who are critically ill. So we have new products coming in this area in the next 12 to 24 months, and these are a great platform to add to our new products, bring a sales force to the marketplace, bring us R&D, medical affairs, everything that we need to bring this together. So this is a new phase for Baxter.
Not a huge price tag on this, about $230 million if you pay those $40 million in milestones. Is that what investors should expect from Baxter in terms of M&A?
We like the tuck-ins. We like the acquisitions that go on the adjacencies of our businesses. So you should expect more of these type of acquisitions in the future.
I want to ask you also about emergency preparedness. Now, Baxter makes a lot of products for hospitals, including saline solution. Of course, after Hurricane Maria a couple years ago, there were some shortages after your plants in Puerto Rico were affected by the hurricane. Dorian missed Puerto Rico, but if there is another hurricane that comes through, are you guys prepared?
We're fully prepared. We made significant changes since Maria in 2017. We have a significant amount of logistical changes we made. We have plants now in other parts of the world which can make products for the U.S. market, but also we never leave anything in the island, for instance, more than 2 or 3 days. We used to have different policies at that time, so we not only diversified our manufacturing base, we took the risk as well, and we're ready for any event. We're very grateful that the hurricane missed the island, but in any event, if it had not missed the island, we would have fully prepared. We also carry 30 to 35 days of inventory in the U.S. of those products.
So you've diversified your manufacturing, but in Puerto Rico, have you built up to the same level where you were? Are you still investing there?
We built to the same level, but what we did is we have 3 plants in Puerto Rico, so we took a second plant, which was in a location much more protected, and diversified the production line, so we now duplicate in a different location. We also have the ability to make those products in Ireland, and we have the ability to make those products in Mexico.
So sterile injectable drugs sold through hospitals, complex generic medicines, these are areas that you're investing in and you're building up in. But there are also areas that seem like they're in some ways are going through a market failure in terms of you can't charge a lot for these drugs. They're old medicines. How do you look at that area and making sure that you don't see shortages, especially as we're approaching flu season, for example?
Well, our mission is to formulate injectable drugs in a way that becomes safer for administration. So take an example, our insulin in solution that we just launched, Mixer-Adling. That is a great product because it brings a very well needed drug to the hospital in a format that allows the nurses to use right away. No need for bulk compounding in the hospital. So what it does, it creates more availability for the drug, and we're increasing capacity in our Northern Illinois facility to be able to make even more of those types of products, which we have more in our pipeline.
Kidney care is also an area that's been in the news recently. President Trump announcing a new initiative to try to push home kidney dialysis. Is Baxter investing in this? Is it going to be a big part of your business?
We were so happy to hear what happened, because our mission is save and sustain lives. It's all about the patients, and we think home therapies are winners in this. So the executive order now is going to go into rule in November. We are fully prepared. We spoke to the HHS Secretary Azar, that we were fully prepared to invest $500 million in augmenting capacity in our plants, but also building a new plant in the United States, generating 1,000 jobs, but also supporting our patients who will be greatly benefiting from this policy.
So you've described Baxter as a hospital company. You supply products through hospitals. How is what's going on in healthcare politically affecting that business? And how do you even gauge what's going to come in terms of that space?
Well, we are also a home company. We deliver in the U.S. to 36,000 patients. In China, we deliver to 85,000 patients. Those are dialysis patients, so we are a home company as well. But in the hospital, changes are always a factor, and I think the ability for us to serve the customer in acute settings is very important. But I think there's a great shift from the acute setting, hospitals, into the home. You see by the executive order is just one of them. So the company needs to be prepared to service the market at home. So for instance, we're going to be launching early in 2021 a pump for the home designed specifically to provide safe therapies in the home that otherwise would be done someplace else. So we call that infusion therapy in the home a migration that's quite good.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
All right, David, back over to you.
Thank you. Meg Terrell joining us. When we come back, Wendy's, well, it joins in on those breakfast wars. We're going to fill you in next. When we come right back.
Through the AT&T network.
This one shouldn't take long. Of course, if it had a cover, I might not be bothered. Can't see what's under there. And then they'd have chained the back wheel. It would have taken me much longer, especially if the chain's off the ground. Makes it harder to cut. This one doesn't even have a lock on the front. So, in the time I've been talking to you, I've nicked it.
Over 9,000 scooters and motorbikes were stolen in London last year. Lock your bike, chain the rear wheel, and cover it to make it harder to steal. Lock, chain, cover. The Met Police.
For people who want to feel happier, stronger, fitter, get further, faster, better. For people who want to, but don't always manage to. It doesn't matter how you want to do it, who you want to do it with. It matters that you want to. Virgin Active. We'll find a way for you. Join in September and get 15% off each month on 12-month memberships. Visit virginactive.co.uk. Participating gyms. Terms and conditions apply.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Nation and P-Money. MCing from Harry Pinero and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18 only. Drink aware for the facts.
Nurses like you love the RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Here's why.
It's an easy way to get your CPD hours.
There are loads of job opportunities on the day.
The free workshops are great for learning something new.
It's an event just for us. The RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Coming to London on the 17th and 18th of September. Register now for free entry. Search RCNI Events.
From the moment I saw you, the last of the litter, I knew you were the one, and would soon hear the pitter-patter of tiny paws on our kitchen floor and tiny scratches on the bedroom door. You might sometimes be mischievous, sometimes be shy, but I know I found love in those kitten cat eyes. Join the free VIP Kitten Club from Pets at Home for advice and exclusive offers, including 10% off your first shop in store. Visit petsathome.com/kitten club or join in store. T's and C's apply.
We are getting some breaking news on Boeing. For that, we'll go to Phil LeBeau. Phil?
Carl, it's August orders and deliveries from Boeing, and according to the company, they had 6 orders. Airplanes ordered 6 in the month of August. That includes 3 737 MAXs that were canceled. Those 3 cancellations were converted into an order for 2 787 Dreamliners. Total deliveries in the month of August, 18. The backlog on the MAX now stands at approximately 4,400 planes. That's roughly in line with where it was a month ago. But boy, have things changed in the last year. Listen to these numbers in terms of year-to-date. Year-to-date orders, 145. Last year at this point, Boeing had 581 orders in terms of deliveries. They've delivered 276 planes year-to-date. A year ago at this point, they had delivered 481 planes. So again, guys, 6 orders in the month of August and 3 737 MAXs. Those were canceled and converted into 787s. Guys, back to you.
Phil, does this push us any further in the direction of looking for changes to production schedules, at least on the MAX?
Gentlemen, we want to thank you so much. No, not yet. And that's not going to be driven by orders and deliveries. At this point, what it's being driven by is what happens with the recertification process with the FAA and other regulators.
All right, Phil, we'll watch that. Boeing's a big name to watch, especially on a day like today, our Phil LeBeau. Meanwhile, Dow adding to its losses. Interestingly, one of the biggest drags on the Dow, McDonald's today, which you don't see too often. Just a couple hours now from Apple's big event. We'll tell you what these new products might mean for the company and investors when Squawk Alley starts in 3 minutes.
Real-time exchange sector sponsored by Sector. I can find a from a Mini to a Jaguar.
Feel good car buying from findandfundmycar.com is the place where you can find quality used cars from trusted dealers rated by you, and where you can fund your car with finance to fit your budget. It's feel good car buying all in one place.